Brake Van is the 16th episode of the second series, based on the story of the same name from the Railway series book, The Twin Engines. This has become one of my favourite episodes of the TV series throughout the years, and it was the introduction to the famous Scottish twins Donald and Douglas. A set of black twin engines named Donald and Douglas have arrived from Scotland to work on the railway. However, the Fat Controller had only expected one engine. He gives the two engines numbers, Donald 9 and Douglas 10, but still in plans to send one of the two engines back to Scotland. A brake van in the yard takes a disliking to Douglas and causes trouble whenever he has to take him out, making his trains late and causing Douglas to worry. Donald is angry at the brake van for treating his twin in such a cruel manner and bumps him violently, threatening him with more to come if he continues to misbehave. The van starts to behave better afterwards. One day, however, Donald loses control while reversing onto some slippery rails and accidentally crashes tender first into a signal box. The Fat Controller was quite disappointed and speaks severely to Donald, as he had intended to keep him and send Douglas back home. Now Donald will need to have his tender mended and James will have to do his work, which the Fat Controller knows he will not like. The Fat Controller was proven right. James is very angry about the extra work and grumbles dreadfully. Douglas teases James and mentions his accident with the tar wagons, worsening his bad mood. He takes a train of trucks, including the Spiteful Brake van, who decides to make work difficult for James and has the trucks hold back, quickly tiring James out. Meeting Douglas at Wellsworth, James asks for his assistance in climbing up Gordon's Hill and Douglas agrees. Two engines work as hard as they can, but James starts losing steam while halfway up the hill. Because of this and the weight of the trucks holding back, Douglas accidentally crushes the van into pieces while pushing from behind. The Fat Controller arrives on Edward, who comes with the breakdown train to help clear the mess and is cross that Douglas has also caused this. Edward stands up for Douglas, having heard what happened from his yard, and tells the Fat Controller of all the hard work Douglas did. Although the Fat Controller understands that Douglas was only trying to help, he does think that Douglas got carried away by destroying the brake van. The Fat Controller then turns and walks away, apparently making up his mind about something. But that's another story. As we all know, the missing coach was intended to be the first part of this storyline. They just decided to take the episode's opening exposition from the stories Hello Twins and the Missing Coach. So you could say that this is a combination of 3 stories rather than 2, with Hello Twins and Brake Van taking more centre stage than the Missing Coach did. The episode is also our introduction to the famous Scottish twins themselves, Donald and Douglas. They are practical, peppery, proud and level-minded, but despite their maturity, they enjoy playing practical jokes and have been known to impersonate one another in the past. They were later on fitted with nameplates to specifically end this element of their humour. Donald and Douglas are very able workers, strong performers and handle any task well. They are fully capable of being firm with the other big engines such as Gordon and Henry, and even the troublesome trucks know better than to try their tricks with them. The Scottish twins hate to be parted with each other, but like most twins, they occasionally have their arguments among themselves and can squabble with one another. They also used to have a strong dislike for diesels. But with what was going on in British railways during the time this story was written, I can't say I blame them. And they became fan favourites among many characters in the TV series. And even though it's not exactly the best Scottish impression I've ever heard, so Ringo Starr really does try to make an effort to make a Scottish accent for the Scottish twins.
You're a muckle nuisance, said Donald. It's to leave you behind I'd be wanting. You can't, said the van. I'm essential. Oh, can you? Donald burst out. You're nothing but a screeching and a noise when all's said and done. Spite Dougie, would you? Take that!
We of course know that the late Michael Andrews would do a better Scottish accent in the 3rd series onwards, but even though Ringo Starr didn't exactly do a great one, I give him credit for at least trying. We also get a one-off character in the story in the Spiteful Brake van, who takes an instant dislike to Douglas and purposely delays his trains, with Douglas being the one blamed for everything. But Donald was able to keep him in line by bumping him fiercely and threatening to do it again if he keeps misbehaving. So Donald was the only one that could keep the brake van in line until he had his accident, and then he started to target James. Like the troublesome trucks, and as his name implies, the Spiteful Brake van was spiteful, very rude, disrespectful and incredibly impolite to the engines, especially the Scottish twins. And he's the first character in the TV series to literally be killed off by the end of the episode. So when Douglas is trying to help James up the hill, James loses steam, and Douglas pushing with all his might, combined with the trucks holding back, results in the brake van being crushed in between Douglas and the trucks. And the creators had the balls to show this character's death on screen. That means he's passed on. This brake van is no more. He has ceased to be. He's expired and gone to see his maker. This is a late brake van. He's a stiff, bereft of life. He rests in pieces. If they hadn't used his remains for kindling, he would be pushing up the daisies. He's run down the curtain and joined the choir invisible. This is an ex-brake van. But all joking aside, it was really ballsy of the TV series to follow through with this on-screen death. And we even get to see the corpse's face near the end of the episode, with a black eye. This just shows that David Minton and Britt Allcroft had balls to keep this in. And Donald and Douglas's theme is another highlight of the episode. It just sounds so Scottish that you really feel like you're in Scotland when you listen to it. Just shows you how authentic Mike and Junior were with their themes, going so far as to create a Scottish theme for the Scottish twins. The episode once again brings in continuity from the first series, where Douglas reminds James about his tar wagon accident.
I heard tell about an engine and some tar wagons. Shut up, said James. It's not funny. He didn't like to be reminded of his own accident.
It not only reminds us of a famous accident from the first series, but it also reminds us of how much James hates to be reminded of his incidents, like the bootlaces and the tar wagons. It's another great piece of continuity in the TV series. And if you've watched the episode on the DVD, then you'll notice that Douglas's nameplate is visible when he was pushing the trucks up the hill with James, whereas in the original televised version and the VHS versions, the nameplate isn't seen. And that's because the TV series did a job at censoring out that nameplate, and whenever they couldn't censor it, they did their best to crop the screen so that we couldn't see it properly. And then Hit Entertainment had to go and spoil it all by remastering it and revealing the nameplate, which shows that the team already had the nameplates built during this episode's production, which I suppose did save them from making them later on, but it was kind of silly that they left them on in this particular scene. But they were clever enough to censor it out until Hit Entertainment uncensored it. But aside from that little nitpick, Brake Van has become one of my favourite episodes throughout the years, being one that I would rewatch multiple times when I put the DVD on, as I really love the Spiteful Brake Van as a one-off character, so much so that I actually got the Bachmann model of him for when I finish my railway set in the future. I feel that Brake Van is a great introduction to Donald and Douglas the Scottish twins. It's a well-adapted story, it's got great new characters and a great villain. This is an episode I would definitely recommend checking out if you're a fan of Donald and Douglas, and if you love the Troublesome Trucks related story and the Spiteful Brake Van. But what's to become of the Scottish twins after all this? Well, we'll find out all the answers tomorrow. Stay tuned.